a player can move around now, but we currently don't have any camera set up. We're sort of just looking at the player for a while. So next, we're going to go in and do the camera setup and set up the script to look around. So first, let's grab our main camera and then we're going to attach it to our player. And then we're going to move it so that it lines up. I think that's sort of good. Let's actually just put it on 0, 0, 0 first. So it's right in the middle of the player. And then let's move it sort of how we want it, a bit out the front. How's that look? I think that's pretty good. And then let's play and see what happens. So now the camera will move with the player because it's parented to it. And we move with the player, but the player can't look in different directions. So we're going to go in and write some more code. Oh, our player has fallen over. So that's something important we need to change as well. On our player's rigid body, we're going to go into constraints and we're going to freeze rotation on the X and Y. Now he can rotate, on the X and the Z. This means he can still rotate on the Y, so look in different directions, but he can't go up and down. Okay. Alright, so let's head back into our player controller. And then we'll set up a second header. We're going to go header. Going to put the brackets in, the speech marks. I'm going to call this camera control. And this error is because when you make a header, you need to declare at least one variable under it. That's why that error is coming up. So we're going to go public transform. And we're going to call this one player camera. We're going to make a public float. We call this mouse sensitivity. I'm going to set that to 2. And we're putting the F after because it's a float. We're going to go public float, a vertical look limit. And we're going to set that to 80 F. And the reason why we're using public ones for these is because we want to be able to access it from other scripts and be able to change these later on. We want to be able to let the player use to set their mouse sensitivity, which means I'll need another script and a menu that allows them to change the mouse sensitivity. So we need that to be a public variable that we can come back in and access later. But at this stage, we're just doing it for good practice. And then we want to just a normal float that's not accessible called rotation X. And we'll set that equal to 0F just for to have something in there. Okay, so we've got a transform. So a transform is the position and rotation. It's similar to a vector free, but it refers to this section here, the statistics here. That's your transform, that component there. So let's go back to the... And then we've got a float for our mouse sensitivity. And we've got a float for our look limit. So we're going to lock how far you can look up so you can't just do backflips. And then we've got a float for our rotation. Okay, so now we're going to need another script. So let's make another method. So public void handle mouse look. I don't know why it's being weird. Moving the brackets funny at the moment. And then obviously we want to call this on fixed update as well. Okay, so going to make a couple of local variables again. We're going to call it float mouse x, and we'll set that to equal input dot get axis, and then we're going to put here mouse space x. So this is a unity variable. So we're accessing the position of the mouse on the Y, well, the change in position. And then we're going to times it by mouse sensitivity. And we're going to do the exact same thing again, but we're going to check our Y instead this time. So we're checking the mouse position on the X, which is left and right, and the Y, which is up and down. Awesome. So next, we're going to do transform dot rotate, and then we're going to use vector free dot up, and then we're going to times that by mouse X. We're going to close the bracket. Okay, so now when we move the mouse from left to right, the player is going to look and rotate with them. That means now when we rotate and then I press W, I'm going to move in the direction I'm now looking because my forward direction has changed. Okay, so that now handles our horizontal mouse look. So next, we're going to clamp vertical rotation to avoid flipping. So we're going to go rotation X minus equals mouse Y. And then we're going to go rotation X equals, should be called rotation Y, this variable, not rotation X. I've made a mistake in my other code. It doesn't actually matter for the sense of functionality, but for naming purposes, you should name things in a way that makes sense. And we're going to go math f dot clamp. So mathf is a unity method as well. It tells you we're saying we're going to do some sort of calculation in these problems brackets, and clamp is a function that allows you to, as it sounds, clamp a number between a maximum and a minimum. So if the number goes past that, it's going to stay. So I can set, so we're going to use rotation Y, and we're going to lock that to a minimum of negative vertical look limit. So we've set our vertical look limit to 80, so negative 80, and then the other end is vertical look limit is the most. Perfect, and then we go player camera dot local position is equal to quantonian dot Euler. So a quantonian is an angle variable, and Euler is to suggest it's a Euler angle. Why is that giving me an error? I see why. Because I went local position. I meant to write local rotation. Now, we also want to change this. I know I said we're doing the Y before, but our camera, they're a bit funky. So we're actually going to put it in here. And I know the Y is in the X slot. It's a bit odd. Okay, so that should all work now. So let's go back into Unity. Let's hit play. And now, when we look from left to right, we're rotating. This is not working correctly. Okay, I see. See, we have an error. We did not declare. So, on our player script, what are we missing? We're missing our player camera. So we're going to grab the main camera and drag it to there. Click play again. Oh, okay. So we can look up as I scroll up. Okay, it's very slow, but let's pause. Let's set our mouse sensitivity to 20. So see, we can now edit them in. And see how we put the headers before? We've got our movement variables here. We've got our player control, camera control variables here. So let's change this to like 10. See what happens. Okay. Okay, that's much faster now. Move up and down, left and right. And then when we walk, we're still walking properly. So I think that's where we're going to leave it off. We now have a player that can look up and down, left and right, move around, and jump very, very high. Because we didn't put, let's go back. Last time when we finished off, we didn't put this back when we were showing an example. So player controller is grounded and end. Okay, so I'm gonna probably attach somewhere so you can download this script because there's quite a lot in here and I'll comment it a bit better, but that's a pretty basic player controller that allows you to look with your keyboard, look with your mouse, move with AWSD, and jump with spacebar. Awesome. Hi, post-recording Michael here. So I made a mistake in the end of that where I said it was a bit weird that you put the Y in the X slot. So an X rotation is rotating around the front and back axis, whereas a Y rotation is rotating around the up and down. So to move forward, to move up and down a camera angle, you change the X axis. I think I confused myself a little bit there and didn't really say what I meant correctly. See you in the next video.